The first thing I have students do here is first guess what load we would use. So I tell them about the span, and then I say, okay, we know our load is 180. What number do we use? Talk to your partners. And so they kind of have that discussion, and most of them will come up with 180 because it's the exact load. And then I tell them, well, it's actually wrong, because what would I say, what would you tell me to use if we did a load of, say, 175? And then they'll kind of be like, all right, and then we have some different answers there, maybe 176 because it's the closest. And that's when I go to explain that we're actually looking for the most efficient composite floor. So we're looking for the cheapest floor possible. So then what these numbers directly correlate is to the thickness of our concrete. So if I use 180, I have to use 4.5 inches of concrete. As opposed to a 4-inch or a 3.5 inch. So that's when we kind of go into, all right, you're looking for the first number on this column that is equal to or greater than your load, because it will be the most efficient design. And then from over there, you kind of explain, all right, then our slab thickness is 3.5 inches. I had a student this year ask me, okay, so then why would we ever use 180? And it was a really great question because it actually dives into what we're about to talk about, which is steel deck type and the welded wire fabric and kind of cost. So, and unshored span. So it was a great question. So, to answer that question, the reason is we would use the 191, and it would really depend on cost, because for this one, we're going to use a steel deck type of 16, which if we go to the next, let's see, if we go here, steel deck 16 is actually the thickest steel. So it would be the most expensive. Where if we go back and we look at 180, you're actually only using steel deck 22, which is the least expensive. It's the thinnest. So I would just say it would depend on price of concrete, because that fluctuates, and price of steel fluctuates as well, just like gas prices fluctuate. So that would be a decision that you would have to make within your design. And then the other thing would be the unshored clear span, which I'm going to explain in a moment. But so the idea behind that is the unshored clear span for 180. My span is, if you're over 7 feet 2 inches, you would have to put in temporary supports, where at the 191, I would not, because we're at 8 feet 6 inches, so I would not have to put in temporary supports. So by choosing this one, you would have a higher labor cost and equipment cost, because you would have to have all those temporary supports placed in, which causes more labor, more money, and then you actually have to have the physical supports themselves. So that's also why I wouldn't use it. So it's always important to know when you're doing the most efficient design, that's when you kind of work your way down, and you kind of use the first number that you see.